Good morning, poet fans. Welcome to another edition of our Alumni Feature Friday. We have a special guest here for you today from the class of 2013 from the Whittier College volleyball team, Alyssa Acosta. Alyssa, thanks for joining me here today.
Of course. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well, it's great to see you. We've got some great stories to talk about. You actually were my first work study student that actually worked all 4 years for me, and I know that was bittersweet seeing you graduate.
Yeah.
But it is great to see you in the real world now after graduation, and we'll touch upon that here in a little bit. But how has quarantine been for you and your family?
Well, for me particularly, I haven't really had a time to kind of grasp it because I've worked the entire time. I work in the field with children and families, so my job never stopped. So even though I was working from home, I was still go. So it was more so of fitting me to like PPE gear, so the N95 mask. So I really haven't had time to cope with it. We've had several scares just in my household. I've been quarantined 2-3 times just from exposure from work and from just restaurants and stuff like that. So it's been a crazy ride. For my family, on the other hand, I have police officers in my family. I have military. I have retail. I have restaurants. So everyone's been affected across the board. So we're kind of just taking it day by day, and then we see each other when we can, but we take precautions. So it's been a pretty scary time, but it's been going by super fast. It's like the quickest and longest year of our lives, that's for sure.
Yeah, the days definitely go by quickly for sure. But of course, the bright spot for you is your recent engagement to Clint
Yes.
Salisbury. So congratulations,
Yes.
Clint,
Thank
former
you.
baseball player for us here for the Poets. So congratulations to you
Thank
both.
you. Thank
But
you.
let's talk about, since graduation, what have you been up to? Let's talk about school, talk about work. And then I also want to talk about, with COVID-19 and with you working with children, what kind of things have you been seeing within that area, and what kind of precautions have you been having to take?
Yeah, so I'll start with pretty much starting after graduation from Whittier. Literally the summer, right after I graduated from Whittier, I started into my master's program at Cal State Fullerton in sociology. I was there for 2 years, and then I graduated. And at that time, Clint and I got together right after I graduated from Whittier, but he's a few years younger than me. So he finished up at Whittier when I finished up at Fullerton. And literally the summer after, we kind of just made a bold move and decided to move out to Oregon. There wasn't really much out here job wise right after college, even though we had internships and stuff like that. So we kind of applied to a 4-state radius around us and kind of just took whatever was the offer. So we moved to a very, very small town out in Oregon called Baker City, and it was an eye-opener. Going from living in LA your entire life to a town that only has 2,000 people, it was a very, very big change. So we had to grow up really quickly.
And how did
But
your family like that?
they were very supportive, but my mom. My mom was, I'm her only child, so she was like, I'm supportive, but I'm gonna miss you. So it was hard. And I mean, when we moved out there, we had no family out there. All of our family lived out here. Our friends, pretty much everyone was out here, but we took a chance and we grew up a lot, and just having to, start paying bills, starting our career, this, that, and the other. And that's kind of where I jumped into children's services. And that's where I got my head start on my career. So out there, I did work in children's services. So front end. So to kind of make it not so sad, because the job can be very sad, I was the social worker that responded to child abuse. So any type of emergency type situation, that was me. And I worked that for 2 years. While we were out in Oregon, we did move over to Portland and lived in that area for a while. So it was a little bit more like LA. You had sports, you were near an airport, so a little bit more more of what we were used to. But unfortunately, my aunt had passed away while we were gone. We had a few family members get sick. So at that time, because we had a timeline of when we were going to come back just because we missed everyone. But given the family dynamics, it was time to pull the plug. So we moved back a lot quicker than we had planned to, but we don't regret it. That's for sure. And then after, when we moved back, we are now in Ontario. I work for Riverside County as a children's services social worker, but I work on what they say is the nicer end of things. I work with family members who want to foster children. So I pretty much approve families to foster children, adopt children, make sure that their homes are safe and stuff like that. So I definitely love what I do. I do. And like you said, Clint and I are recently engaged. We got engaged in August, and pretty much just enjoying that piece. It's probably the most exciting piece of 2020, that's for sure.
It's much needed for sure.
That is for sure. That is for sure.
Mm-hmm. Now, what precautions are you taking being in children's services and making sure, families are, okay for adoption?
Yeah, definitely. So at first, when everything had first started out in March, it was just like everything else, kind of taking it day by day. And because we're out in Riverside County, it was definitely different than LA County, San Bernardino. We live in San Bernardino, but I work in Riverside. And then Clint at the time was working in Orange County. So we had different regulations in all three. So one was requiring masks, one was not. But for my work, particularly, like just within weeks, we were working in the office, and then now it was working from home to we're still going out. So everything that we do now, we wear masks, we have hand sanitizer. They recently just trained all of us to wear N95 masks. So we have the face shields, the mask, the gloves. So we're starting to transition, because this job never sleeps. Even though people are home and some aren't working, child abuse unfortunately does not stop. And we've seen a higher influx of it within the pandemic. So we're super, super busy. So at this point, we're just taking every precaution. We ask the questions before we go out. We ask the family if anyone's been sick, anyone's been exposed, any symptoms, anything like that. And if they say yes, then we talk to our regional manager and kind of determine if we should go out or not. Unfortunately, I did run into a situation where I did not ask those questions, and that's how I was exposed. So lesson learned on that one. Definitely ask the question before you go anywhere, but it's a day by day thing, to be honest. Yeah.
What a service you're providing. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
It's the kids are definitely needed, especially in this situation, being at home with their parents and the child abuse and things like that happening. So it's very important.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Whittier. Let's talk about some sports. Let's talk about your experience attending Whittier College. You're a 4-year letter winner in volleyball. You graduated with degrees in anthropology and sociology. How did Whittier College prepare you for what you're doing now?
Yeah. So honestly, the biggest thing that I got from Whittier was just being able to study an array of things. I know I have my degree in anthropology and sociology, but like Whittier, just being a liberal arts school, you're able to just take a course in pretty much anything that you want to, and they all intersect. So it was very, very nice to kind of have that. And I thoroughly enjoyed the small classroom size. Just, I felt that I learned more from that piece. And it definitely prepared me to kind of be more interactive. Before college, I just did not like to participate in class at all. But at Whittier, you just don't have the option to shy away in the corner, because, if there's only 7 of you, then let's be real, you're going to be picked on at some point in the, and the more that your professors know you, the more that you get picked on, in a sense of like answering questions and stuff like that. So, because I was able to study so much, I knew by the time that I graduated, I wanted to work with children and families. I just didn't know kind of what scope I wanted to go into, because there was just so much information. I had anthropology, sociology, psychology, economics. Like there was just so much that it was like, I know what field I want to get into. I just don't know specifically which one yet. And then kind of going through my master's, it kind of solidified that specifically wanted to work with families and, you know, within the system and the welfare system and stuff like that, and helping out as much as I possibly could, just because your eyes are open to things that you just don't know that are out there.
Now, is there any specific class or professor that might have stuck out to you that really kind of swayed your way to go into family services and children's services?
That's a hard question.
Yeah.
No, not really, just because like everyone, just from the anthropology department itself and sociology department, they're all just so interactive in your studies that it was like, I don't know, like I learned from every single one of them, even though they had their own individual teaching methods. I learned from every single one of them, and they still stick with me now too. Like even going into my master's, like they were very, very influential on what I wanted to do for my graduate thesis and stuff like that. It kind of, everything that I encompassed for my senior thesis at Whittier carried over into my graduate, and I just expanded on it, and I wouldn't have had that opportunity without all of them, because they all had a say in, you know, in which direction that I take. So honestly, I can't pin down who, because I love them all.
Yeah, the collaboration among professors here is unbelievable, and it might not be professors
definitely.
within sociology, but
Yeah.
sociology professors might talk with anthropology professors, and they all help out in you know what you want to do in life, which is great about Whittier College and a liberal arts education.
Yeah, definitely. And then, I mean, it also intersects to social work and then political science and stuff like that. So that's why it's, you know, I love the education through Whittier, just because everything is just, you might say, yeah, I have this degree, but you might dabble in every other course that's there, and you learn so much more.
Of course. Now, your playing experience, you got coached under both Allie Oliver and Chris Duarte McDermott during your 4 years. How was that, being coached under two different kinds of styles? That's your first question. Let's address that first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anyone who knows me kind of knows the experience that I had at the beginning with Allie and then with Chris. I They were difficult in their own ways. I learned a lot from Allie. I do have to admit, I learned a lot from Allie because she was my first coach in collegiate athletes. Like, it wasn't going from high school to college. It's a totally different ballpark when you're playing volleyball. It just really is. So, you know, I can't say that, like, she taught me a lot, and I'm very, very grateful for her for giving me that opportunity to play in college, because without her, who knows, you know, like I was going to Whittier for academics, and then fortunately enough, I got picked up for volleyball as well. So I do have to give her, you know, that kudos for letting me do that. But I will say that I did have a better playing experience with Chris because he fit my style of playing. He knew how, if I was down on myself, he did know how to pick me up and make me a better player versus just telling me to get out of my head. Like, that just didn't work for me. And he knew me inside and out as a player and knew how to make me better. I think that my senior year was probably my best year of any type of volleyball throughout, from age 11 until age 21. Like, he was definitely the person that made me my best. It was the most successful year. I was
it was your senior. It was your senior year, and of course, throughout your career, you're always going to get better as an athlete leading up to that point. And like you talked about, you know, Allie Oliver, fantastic coach, very tough on the athletes, but she definitely pushed her athletes, like you were mentioning. But again, two different kinds of styles. You know, Chris came in, and he again also pushed the athletes, and he had that different coaching style that came in, but it fit you really well, and you succeeded, especially during your senior year, like you talked about.
Yeah. Whenever I would have a bad game, like when I would come out to the sideline, or even either before a game, or if I was in my head or something like that, he would make a comment to me like, hey, like, you're top 10 in digs. Like, come on, you know what you're doing. Get out there and do it. You know, like, just little comments like that to kind of reassure me, like, you might be stinking it up right now, but you're so much better. So get out there and do it. So it was more reassuring. And he was that way with all of the players. Like, he knew how to talk to each one of us. And I thoroughly enjoyed that, because it was the coaching that I needed to be better.
Yeah. Now, you recorded over 1,000 career digs, pretty much about 1,400 to be exact. And your senior year, you finished number 2 in digs and digs per set within the SCIAC conference, which was a huge deal within that year. Now, in the Whittier College record books, you currently rank number 3 all time in single season digs with 559, and you're also top 5 in career digs. But how did you enjoy being a student athlete at Whittier College?
I loved it. I loved everything about it. I mean, my best friends are pretty much all from athletes. Like, my fiance was an athlete. Everyone that's in our bridal party were athletes from Whittier College, and then everyone that I graduated with and then graduated before me, we're all still very, very close. So it's just, I loved everything about being a student athlete there. I just like the community. I mean, I worked for you for 4 years. It's just, everyone was just so close that it felt like home away from home. I mean, I know I'm from Whittier, but like, it was just nice to know that like I could go to anyone in any sport and have a good conversation about school, about sports, about what's going on. I miss it. I do. It's just so weird to look back and be like, man, I used to do that. Now it's like,
And then you also had the athletic community too. Like you talked about, all the athletes supported each other, and they still do to this point.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a volleyball player, you'd have baseball players that came and supported, or you guys were friends with everybody, and it didn't matter what sport you were playing. Everybody supported each other, which is great.
Yeah, I miss that. I do. I miss when our games would end, we'd go over to the soccer games or vice versa. And, we would have baseball at our games, like you said, water polo, football. People would dress up and vice versa. We would dress up for soccer games. Yeah, very interactive just in all of the sports together.
Of course. Now, you were successful in the classroom as well. You posted 3 years of being named to the SCIAC All-Academic Team. You were selected to the Dean's List. You also were invited to the President's Club luncheon. I do know that you were in my INTD class to try and help with all the balancing, the academics, the athletics, everything you were involved in on campus. But how were you able to do those things when you were here and be successful?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, looking at where I am now and where I was in college, like, just the support from my family, from my friends, from coaches, from teachers, just everyone, giving the support, and if we ever needed help. But I feel like I didn't have any outside responsibilities, in the sense of like, I didn't have bills to pay. I didn't have, I was fortunate enough to be living at my either on campus or with my parents, and until I graduated. So I didn't have I worked, but I don't know. That's a tough question. How did I balance it all? It almost feels like it was so easy during that time, and then I look at it now as an adult with work and everything together, and I feel like it's so much harder now than it was as a student. And it's like, I just I don't know how
it's supposed to be the opposite, where you're so balanced in college that life afterwards should be simple now.
Oh my goodness. And I mean, I'm still like, if you know me, I'm very organized. As you can tell, I have calendars behind me. I have Post-its. I'm a very organized person, and very like on top of things. And don't get me wrong, like, for our wedding, I'm the wedding planner. Like, let's be real. Like, we're not going to have someone do it. But
of course I would say that. And you do instead of Clint doing it.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? But it's a different feeling. It definitely is. I think maybe because of the job that I work in. So it's that extra stress of making sure that both life and work are completely balanced. And some days they're not, just because, I work in an emergency situation every day. But I will say I do miss college. I do. I do miss having the luxury of just having to go to class and then go back back to the room and not have to go to work or not have to work 8 to 5. I would work some hours, but not have to work a full 9 to 10 hour day.
Yeah. Now, the last question I have for you is any words of advice for athletes that are attending Whittier College right now, or any new ones who are planning on coming in for this coming year or the following year? What are some good words or words of wisdom that you can offer to them?
Yeah. I honestly, the best advice I can give is just enjoy the time that you're there. It goes by so fast. Like just from freshman to senior year, like it goes in a blink of an eye. So as an athlete, I would just say, I mean, obviously right now, given the circumstance with COVID, it's not something that is in anyone's control. No one could have predicted that your first year was going to be this way, but definitely enjoy the time that you have. Don't get down on yourself. Continue to push yourself to be better, and you're going to make lifelong friends through this entire process. Like I said, all of my best friends are the ones that I played with and the ones that I went to school with, and they're going to be in my life for the rest of my life. So I just kind of enjoy it and do anything and everything that you possibly can to be part of the Whittier community. Yeah.
Okay, well, Alyssa, that's all the time we have for today with you. I want to thank you so much for hopping on with me.
Of course.
It's always great catching up and seeing you. Make sure you continue staying safe, and thank you for everything you're doing for the children. Around here locally. You're doing a great job. And again, congratulations to both you and Clint. And I'm hoping, next year we'll have an alumni game for volleyball, and we'll be able to get you out there and be able to see you. Okay. So once again, everyone, thank you for tuning in to our Alumni Feature Friday. Alyssa Acosta, once again, thank you so much for joining me. Please stay safe. Tell your family hi for me, and we'll see you soon.
Will do.